Hi, welcome everyone. We are in Module 7, Part 1 of the hip. This is a lengthy, no pun intended, lecture content. So we're going to break our group fitness into two portions. So this will be the first part, and then we'll revisit those slides and dip back into the second part because there's a lot of action that happens in the hip and the leg, as I'm sure you know. So some of the things you're going to hear today are hip flexor and hip abductor. So those are the pieces that we're going to be looking at today, and then we'll move into some of those other fine-tuned nuances of the leg and hip as we move forward with next week. Okay, so to get started, we'll go ahead and sit with the soles of the feet together and the knees draping open, drawing the hands along the blades of the feet. I'll ask that you bring the legs up and really start to engage those hip flexor muscles. You can feel that these are the inner leg lines, often associated with the psoas and groin, and then go ahead and press to open. So a little bit of a resistance stretch. Let's do that 2 more times. So draw up, really providing pressure in with the arms as the arms press away the legs, and soften. And if you're shaking a little bit, that's great, so am I. Draw the legs in, press, and soften. And you may also notice that you have a little bit of additional range as you draw in that energy into the hip flexor. So that's a great way to go ahead and kind of soften and lengthen through the psoas and groin. We're going to come onto the back body and start leg circles. So all the way down, extending one leg into the air. Go ahead and rotate that femur bone in the hip socket so you have range of motion. We talked about the slides addressed how that head of the femur bone can knock against the pelvis. So we always want to have a really nice external rotation here. Soft tuck of the chin, hands are resting beside you. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, draw that leg towards the body, so medial, and then circle it down, around and up. Inhale. Exhale, draw it towards you, around and up. We'll do that just 2 more times. Draw it towards the body, around and up. Notice that the hips are relatively stable. Inhale and exhale. We're going to go ahead and reverse that. Maintain that external rotation so the knee is essentially facing the outside of the mat. Soft tuck of the chin, back body grounded. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, sweep that leg open to the side so pinky side is face down. And now draw it to the midline and slice through center. 3 more times just like that. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale and exhale. Last inhale and exhale. Nicely done. Go ahead and extend that leg long. The opposite leg is going to reach to the sky. With the help of the hands, a nice manual shift. Find that external rotation. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, sweep that leg towards the body, so moving medial, around and up. Inhale. Exhale. Here's 3 and 4. Good. Arriving back at center, prepare to reverse. Inhale. Exhale, sweep the leg open, arrive at the midline, and now draw a straight line to slice through center. Inhale and exhale. Here's 3 and 4. Good. So working into those abductors as we shift the leg away from the body. Extend both legs overhead. Go ahead and thread the hands below, beneath the low back to help support. We're going to work deep into those hip flexors. So if the hamstrings are tight, go ahead and bend the legs in half. Extending overhead, soft tuck of the chin. Inhale to lower the legs. Back body stays grounded. Exhale, lift back through center. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift. Just 2 more. I know these are a lot. It's okay to shake. And center. Last, lower. And lift. Good. Get a little stretch as you draw the knees into the chest. And now walking the knees wide to the edges of the mat, we're just going to stretch open those hip flexors and abductors at the same time. So drape the knees to one direction so you feel a little stretch for the abductor as you feel a stretch for the hip flexor. Back to center and other side. Center and shift. Be mindful to keep the feet wider than hips distance here so you have room for the knees to drape. And this should be relatively effortless, right? Like let gravity help support you here. Let this movement happen organically, but notice the spaces that are opening in opposition. And back to center. Nicely done. We're going to go ahead and shift onto the belly. So in a prone position, we're going to move to double leg kick. So I like my arms in an L shape, almost as if replicating like a Sphinx pose, if that resonates with you. Pressing actively down through the elbows. Let the tummy draw in and up. Energy through the legs, and we're going to kick, kick, and lower. Kick, kick, and lower. So you can feel engagement for the extensors here, which we'll talk a little bit more about next week in the hamstrings, but also lengthening here for the hip flexors that reside along the front of the body. Kick and extend. Last kick and extend. Nice. Make a pillow for head, chin, or cheek. Come back to those windshield wipers now on the belly. Wag the legs side to side. We're going to move to swimming. So extending arms and legs long away from the body, so distal. Really activate as you reach the fingertips and the toe tips in opposite directions. Go ahead and hug the tummy tight. We're going to lift opposite arm and opposite leg. So if you've got left arm, you've got right leg extending. So again, this is just kind of another way to explore how the extensors, the hamstrings and the glutes, as they're the agonist, the hip flexors are now the antagonist. You can feel that little stretch for the front of the body. Aim to keep the tummy pretty tight here. You also want to work those spinal extensors, the erectors, in addition. A few more passes. Opposite, opposite, so ipsilateral. And now if that felt right, stay there. Or you can hover and flutter. Just a little bit more active. Keep breathing. Last breath. Glide the hands under the shoulders. Send the hips up and back. Arrive to find child's pose. Taking out any residual back bend here. And we're going to float back through and find double leg lifts. So arms can rest in front of you, palms down to support. Do hug the tummy tight. We don't want to take too much of a back bend here. Engaging the glutes, soften through the hip flexors, lift both legs, and bring it back down. Just 3 more. Lift, and lower back down. 2, and 1. Good. Go ahead and walk those feet wide, wag knees. Little windshield wiper for the low back. Grab my cheat sheet. All right, we're gonna go ahead and come on to tabletop. We're coming to that perfect tabletop alignment. As you know how wrist, elbow, shoulder, one straight line, knees, hips, distance. Shifting weight slightly to the left. Hug that right femur bone into socket and abduct to the side. So again, feeling that lengthening in the hip flexor as we engage the abductor, identifying the agonist as the abductor and the antagonist as the hip flexor. Aim to keep those shoulders pretty stable. Last 3, 2, and 1. And now let's get that other side. Almost there. Right, so nice, perfect tabletop. Hug the tummy tight. Hover that left leg, and I'll bring it out to the side. 1, 2, shoulder stable. 3, 4, good. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So shifting through camel poses can be a really deep back bend for folks, so just taking care to modify. You can curl the toes and bring the heels slightly elevated. This is going to reduce the angle with which you have to reach. And then bringing hands right to the iliac crest, like the top of where your glutes meet the bony ledge of your sacrum. And you can bring that heel of the hand to press as you hug the elbows together and just enjoy a subtle back bend here. So likely feeling a rich opening here for the belly, definitely the hip flexor as it drifts down towards the quadricep. Now if this feels like enough, of course, give yourself permission to stay right here, or you can flatten the tops of the feet and go ahead and reach simultaneously for the heels. So again, this can be a very deep back bend for folks, so just take a moment to check in and make sure that the body is supporting this movement today. A full breath, let that heart shine open. And now exhale as you engage the hip flexor, so there's that tuck of the tummy to protect the back and come out all at once. Let's try it one more time. Okay, so you're either here, hands pressing into that iliac crest, or bringing the hands to rest simultaneously as they reach for the heels. Heart opens, maybe shake the head yes and no. Really let that back bend lengthen through the belly. All right, exhale to engage and come out at the same time. Nicely done, that's not easy to do. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and come back onto the back body, bringing the knee to the chest. Get a little rock. And now gently draw that leg across the body. Shift the gaze back overhead. And hug that knee in, get a little rock. Opposite leg here, and now gently draw across center. Yes, nice stretch for the abductor here. And if the gaze has shifted, do bring it back overhead, hug both knees to the chest. Taking out any residual back bends, and done. Thank you all so much for joining today, and stay tuned because next week we'll work on the hip part 2, where we'll be working to those extensors and glutes with a little sneak preview from today's work. Thank you so much. Questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out.